And I will share my desktop, then we will be able to review the questions together. Okay. In first question, I think there is no need. All of you answered the question correctly. The second one, in which phase of the data life cycle the data backup and redundancy are defined? It is in the second one, in the store. In the second one, in the store. And as I told you, gentlemen, it is very important to know these special requirements in the phases. We have the create, where the classification of the data is defined, then store, where the data backup and redundancy, use, which we explained that it is the worst, or it is the least protective layer, because data, it cannot be protected or encrypted rather than some specific technology as IRM and some other techniques. Then we have share. The share, again, this means that the data, it's out of the system, and it may be shared with external or internal user. And in this case, we can utilize the DLP, we can utilize IRM, we can utilize DRM to protect the data. We have also the destroy phase, where the data, it will be destroyed based on the retention period. These information are very important. You have to understand very well. Which phase is considered the most data unsecure? Not create. We mentioned it is use, because in the create, we are defining the classification. And if the data classification is defined, then it may require the data encryption and so on. But in the use, we are not able to protect the data, because how you will protect the data? Masking, encryption, synchronization. We will not be able to do this, because use means that there is a system or a user, they are accessing the data. Then how we will protect it? I will not be able to encrypt it or touch it or change it at all. I will not be able to do anything in this phase. Then this means that this is the most unsecure phase in the data life cycle. Which technology can use protecting there? What is there?
Data at rest.
Data at rest.
Yes, data at rest. This is very important. In some times in the exam, you may find DAR or DIT, data in transient, or DIU, data in use. Then you have to know this expression. Of course, gentlemen, TLS, SSL, this is wrong answer. We are not protecting data in data addressed by using SSL. We are used by IPsec. This TLS and SSL, it will be used only for data in transient. This, it will be used only data in transient. Data in use. Of course, first three are wrong, and we explained why. If you will make HTTPS or SSL or IPsec, all of them means encryption. How you protect the data encrypted and it will be used? How you will encrypt the data and you will allow the system to use it or utilize it or process it? This, it will not work. Then this, it's a wrong answer. The only thing which I can protect the data here, it may be IRM or DRM. And this, yes.
I have a question, please, but in the previous question, not this one. If you can go back, I read it in the in CCSP all-in-one.
Yeah.
Which technology used for protecting DAR? And it's mentioned like this: TLS, HTTPS, IPsec. They are all in data in transit. not type.
Send me in WhatsApp page
Screenshot.
number, and I will review it, and we can discuss it together. No problem.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Okay. Data in transient, I think we discussed that this it will be the SSL. By the way, HTTPS also it's the right answer, but this HTTPS, it is a specific type of SSL. It is a specific type of SSL. Then it's better to say the TLS or SSL. Okay. I think we are lucky. The system, it was able to capture the answers, not as before. What does data archive mean? Preserving the data to retrieve later. Okay. It involves data moving to long-term storage, right? Storing or purging data for history. Okay. Move the data to long-term storage or moving it from production to idle, but the system still able to access. That's right. These are right answers. What are the data usage types used in ES? In ES, we have two types, volume and object. Volume and object. In BAS, we have structured and unstructured. You have to memorize it. You have to memorize it. In SAS, it's information systems management and file and content storage. Sorry, this is wrong answer, gentlemen. Here it's mentioned unstructured and file and content storage. No, this is wrong answer. The right answer, it is information system and management systems and file and content storage. Number 1 and number 3.
Yeah, I selected that too, but it came wrong for me.
Forget about it, because in some situation it may be a mistyping, operator mistyping. You know, by the end of the day, it's typing, maybe mistyping, or when he make the answer, he highlight wrongly the answer. But the right answer, it's information systems and management system and file and content storage. What are the storage threads? Denial of service, okay. Unauthorized access, okay. Key management, no. Key management, it is not a thread, storage thread. This encryption challenge. This encryption challenge, not storage threads. Storage threads, we mentioned unauthorized access. It may be a distributed denial of service, or in generally any thread which it can affect a network. It can be reflected to the storage as well, and the unauthorized access also. Data deletion, to delete the data. Again, it can be a storage thread. But key management, no. Key management, it is related to encryption. What are the possible types of database encryption? Database encryption, we have two different types. First one, that the file system where the database is stored, it will be encrypted. Then it will encrypt the whole storage. Or another model, which is the application or database encryption, where you are encrypting some specific fields or records in the database itself. Symmetric and symmetric, no, this is not a wrong, this is a wrong answer. File and column, field level and column level encryption, this one of the methods, it's not two. This, it's one of the method, SANAT, the field or column. Yeah. The second one, it will be the file system. No, Wakil, this is the wrong answer, RMS and IRM. SOB, AES, no, it is the wrong answer. The right answer for the database encryption, we mentioned that, number 1, you can encrypt the file system where the database is stored, or you can encrypt the inside the database specific fields and specific columns. What are the possible types of volume storage encryption? Volume storage encryption is very easy. We have the hard disk, we have full hard disk, or file level. Full hard disk or file level. File level, okay. Disk encryption, okay. Internal, external, and independent. No. This internal, external, and independent, this it's related to key management. This it's related to the key management. When we mentioned the key management, that the key, it can be on the same system or a different system or in a different even provider. Then these are wrong answers. Gentlemen, these questions should be easy because they are direct questions. We don't have anything here to think about it or tricks or whatever. It is very simple. What are the supported types of storage in ES It should be very easy. What are the special types of encryption in the storage types? It should be very easy. If you are confused, return to the book and read it very carefully. This is very important.
Yeah.
What are possible types of object storage encryption? Okay, object storage encryption, again, encrypt the whole storage, or we, no, object storage, we have two different types. To encrypt the objects individually, maybe files, folders, videos, audios, and so on, or application level. Where the application itself, it will be responsible for encrypting the data. When before read it, it will take it, decrypt it, read it, process it, and when it is stored on the storage, it will encrypt it. Then the firewall, the application act as a proxy. The only right answer, it is SANET. Proxy encryption, there is nothing called proxy encryption. IRM, no, IRM, it is not doing encryption. IRM, it is not doing encryption. It is some way of authorization. What you are allowed to use on a file, to read, to change, to so on. What is the hashing function? Protecting data integrity. Hashing, protecting data integrity. It is not protecting data confidentiality. No, it is not protecting confidentiality. What is the encryption? What is the security technology which protect encryption, confidentiality?
Encryption. You said it already.
Yes, encryption. Okay. What are different type model of encryption key management? Yes, with the internal, external, and independent. And this, as we mentioned, internal storage where the keys are stored with the application or data on the same machine. And we said that this is not recommended because if the hacker, if there is any hacker who was able to capture or to compromise the machine, he will be able to capture everything, the data, keys, decrypt, encrypted data, and everything. But the nice thing here that the keys are present on the same machine. When this means that they are available 24/7. In the external storage, it may be different machine in the same cloud, different machine, different VM, different machine on the same cloud under the control of the cloud service provider. And again, we mentioned here this, it will be better than the internal storage because even if the VM of the application, it is compromised. This means that the application, it will, the keys, it will not be compromised as well because it's on a different machine. But again, it is still in the same, what we can say, same authorization or authority of the same cloud service provider. Then this hacker, maybe ABT or something like that, when he is able to reach to the data. In the independent storage, this is the best model. This is the best model. Why? Because this means that the data, it will be totally separated in independent way from the application, and it can be reside on-prem in your organization where you are managing these keys, or it may be reside with independent cloud service provider as a broker. Of course, you have to keep in your mind that there must be a connectivity 24/7 with the keys and the data, because if the connectivity it's slow or it's not available or it's not redundant or whatever, then this means that you will not be able to access your application or your data, because if you are not able to get your keys, then you will not be able to decrypt the data and you will not be able to read it. This is very important. Your organization asks you to generate a usable copy of the production data to be used in the application development environment. You want, before greeting, gentlemen, you remember when I told you there are some key questions you have to understand. Here he want to say masking. Here, sorry, tokenization. I mean tokenization, because we mentioned that the tokenization, you are changing the actual or sensitive data with some tokens, and this it will have the same characteristics of the data as the original one. But this it will be secure when it can be utilized and used in the production or I mean in development or testing environment. What are
Dr.
the
Osama, please, for the previous question. It's also mentioned in the all-in-one that it's if you want to make something a copy for the development team and to use it, it will be masking. The de-identification data, it's masking, but tokenization, it's random data. You'll take random data and you make it tokenization or sensitive data. But for the whole...
Yeah, tokenization, it's not random. Masking is random.
Okay, it's I will send it to you the same page as well, because it's mentioned in the book. Different. Tokenization is random.
As I mentioned, gentlemen, if our information it is contradicting with the book or with the ISC square, we will follow ISC square. Okay, this is our rule. And if our experience it will be contradicting with CCSP, we will follow CCSP because we want to pass the exam. In our practical life, this it will be a different issue. Then if there is some information contradicting with what I am telling you, you are most welcome. Send it to me. I will read it. And if I find that I am wrong, I will inform you. Yes, please forget about what did I say. You use it as it's mentioned in the book.
Okay, thank you.
What are the reductions of DLP? What are the... I don't know what the meaning of reductions. What are the factions? Or you mean factions of DLP? What are the DLP components? Okay. DLP components: discovery, classification, monitoring, and enforcement. Yes, that's right. Set of controls and access to ensure composed to authorized users and component discovery, right? Storage DLP, endpoint DLP. No, storage this يعني it's okay. That's okay. Storage we are endpoint and storage and all this stuff, but mainly the DLP components as a CSP, we call it the discovery, classifications, monitoring, and enforcement. Discovery and classifications, monitoring, and enforcement. Although your answer, I can consider it right, but unfortunately for CCSP, it's not. As I mentioned now, even if the information, our information is contradicting with CCSP, we have to follow the CCSP. Okay, the answers, I will not be able to say good, but I mean excellent, but it's okay. We have to make sure that our information is rigid. Of course, these questions, it's not difficult, it's very easy, but of course, it's not the way of having the CCSP exam, because CCSP exam, it is following the multiple choice model. But again, I'm not able to give you multiple choice questions because we did not finalize the whole module. Then I will not be able to give you this question, but I want to make sure that you understood the other questions. I will open my whiteboard. I think now you are able to see my whiteboard.
Yeah, we can see.
Okay. We will continue our module today for the domain number 2. We are in domain number 2, which is the domain data, data security domain. And we will start the exercise or the topic for the data discovery. Data discovery. What is data discovery? This data discovery, it is looking for patterns and attributes in your data. And this is very important, gentlemen, because it depends upon your organization and your activities, transactions, and all this stuff. It will be very difficult if you are not able to search for your data or specific data. If you are looking for specific data and you are not able to find it out, then this will be a problem, because if the data is available and you are not able to reach it, then what will be the benefit of the data at this time? Then the data discovery, it is the art of searching for data. It can be pattern of the data or it can be attributes of the data. Although this is very important. It can be attributes of the data, or in other words, which we call it metadata. What is the metadata? Metadata, it is data about the data. Data about the data. For example, if you have in your mobile iPhone, for example, a photo, and you opened the specs of the photo, you will find that this photo, it has geolocation, where it will tell you that this photo, it was captured in home, or in USA, or in specific location. Yani, I mean, it will give you the geolocation where this photo it was captured. This is not only the information in the iPhone, it is really amazing. It will give you information about the F factor. It will give you if it's automatic or manual. It give you the a lot of information. This is what we call it metadata, and this metadata, it's very important, very important. Why? Because security, it depends upon the data and its metadata. I can build the DLP solution based on the metadata. I can build the DLP solution based on the metadata. Okay. Now, of course, I am quite sure that you heard about the concept of big data. And this big data, it came up when we started the concept of digitalization and collecting huge size of data from different machines or different environments, and we try to process it. Then we will be able to automate the actions and improve the performance by using the digitalization or even the IoT, Internet of Things. Then just imagine the big data and the size of the information which you can have it. If you are not able to capture the information required and the availability of this information, then this means that you will be in a problem and you will not be able to discover the data, and there is no need for this data. If I have a lot of data and I am not able to discover or get information out of it, this it does not mean anything. Of course, you need the tools. You need the appropriate tools. Yeah, for example, the big data, it is usually you will find it is related to Hadoop. Hadoop, it is infrastructure which is able to make analysis on the big data and provide you reports and all this stuff. Okay. When we are speaking about the discovery of data, this it can be piece of cake if you are in your organization. If you are in your organization on-prem, then it can be easy because you know that you have 1 terabyte, 2 terabytes, 3 terabyte, and where they are located and where they are stored and all this stuff. But when we reach to the cloud environment, this it will be a crisis. Just imagine the size of the data which any cloud service provider he can have. Then what are the challenges of the data discovery in the environments of cloud environments? What are the challenges of the data discovery in a cloud environment? This is very important. You have to remember this very well. Number one, the quality of the data. And I think quality of the data, it's really one of the challenges of the people. As you can see, gentlemen, today when we were asking, reviewing the questions, we found 2 questions. They are really weird. One of them, it's wrong answer. And the second one, it was Dutch. I said, what does it mean? This is, you want to say factions. Okay, faction. Why? Because it's a mistyping of an operator. And this, it's normal. He is human. By the end of the day, he is human and he can make this mistake. But these mistakes, it will affect the quality of the data. When, just imagine if I am searching for the word faction in the data and I will not be able to discover this question. Why? Because this question, it's written like that, faction. Then I will not be able to discover it. Then, although the data is there, but I will not be able to see it. Why? Because the quality of the data is very bad. The quality of the data is very bad. Also, how you can provide the data. Data can be provided by different ways. You can originate the data by different ways. This data, it can be originated by systems, or it can be scanned databases or scans, whatever, or it can be a data set. You have a data set stored and you can utilize it. Then you have to understand what is the nature or the origination of your data. It is very important to know your data. Also, there is another point which is very important here for the big data discovery. Sorry, I mean not big data, I mean the cloud service provider discovery. What is it? Who creates the data and what is the structure of the data? Who creates the data? Who is the creator? Who creates the data? And how the data is discovered, or how the data is structured. Is it structured data? Is it unstructured data? Is it stored on objects storage? Is it stored on volume storage? And so on. Then you have to know where its location. Then the other challenge with the discovery of the data, it's huge size or huge volume, huge data volume. This can reach up to 100 terabytes with any cloud service provider. Just imagine Azure, for example, or Google, and in some situation, you may have your subscription and you make a subscription for 1 terabyte. And this is, by the end of the day, it's a single person. Then imagine what is the real size of the data which it's available in the cloud service provider. Okay. Why do we want the data discovery? Why do we want data discovery? What do you think? Do you have an answer for it? Any answer?
So those data can be reused for the different purpose within the organization.
Okay, this number one. Number two, you may want to see the data classification as well when you will choose the right security controls. This is very important. How can I know the security, the proper security controls? I must understand the data criticality and so on. Then I will be able to apply the security controls.
Yeah.
Very important to know where is your data. With some cloud service providers, if we don't have any restrictions on data exporting and so on, then it may be in a cloud service, a cloud data center, and it may be replicated to another data center for redundancy. And if this data center, it may be in a different country or maybe different territory, which it has different rules and obligations. Then this means that you have to understand exactly where is the data locations. In a normal data center, I know that I have one storage, and this storage has redundant hard disks. When the hard storage is stored in one storage, maybe two storage, three storage, whatever. But by the end of the day, I know exactly where is it. Even if you have a disaster recovery site and you are replicated the data into other location, it can be again know where is the location data, and this it will be very easy to find its location. But in the cloud service provider, this is not the scenario. This data, it can be in the production data center, it can be in the standby data centers, it can be in backup, it can be whatever. Then you have to know exactly where is the location. Of course, it is not your rule. This is not under your governance. You will not be able to do this. It should be written as a service level agreement condition. You have to make service level agreement condition for the data discovery, because this data discovery, it should be arranged by the cloud service provider with the cloud service customer. Then in the service level agreement, you have to mention that if I need any data, he has to provide me this data within a specific time, within a specific period. You have to tell me exactly where are the locations. Is it in backup? Is it in inside the what we can say inside the production data center or outside, and so on. Then this it should be able to come in or be mentioned very clear in the service level agreement. And as you can see, SLA or services agreement and contract is very important. Without a service agreement, we will be in a trouble, because all the relation between the cloud service provider, it should come in the services agreement and the contract, whatever any conditions or requirements from the cloud service provider. For discover the data, you have to understand the nature of the data. Is it structured data versus unstructured data? This is very important. You have to understand it. Of course, you have to understand, because if I'm searching for structured data, it will be totally different from unstructured data. Because unstructured data, for example, if I want to search for a specific file, then okay, I have to mention the name of the file or the ID in object storage. When I capture the file, that's it. It's over. But in structured data, no. If I'm searching for a record, then I have to understand what is the fields of these records and so on. Then you have to understand the types of the data. Is it structured or unstructured? we have here some roles and responsibilities related to the discovery, related to the discovery of the data privacy, This, again, important topic, because as you know that privacy, it has international laws, and of course the most popular law for data privacy is the GDPR, which control the personal information of the normal persons. Then, what are the rules and responsibilities here, and how you define it? This privacy rules and responsibility is very important. As I mentioned to you, what is the relation between the cloud service provider and the cloud service customer? Who is responsible for what? This must come very clear in the service level agreement. For example, physical environment. Who is responsible for the physical environment? What do you think?
Provider.
The provider.
Provider,
CSP.
of course. Yes, because now if you are telling me data center, then how the customer, he will have access to the data center, how he will have access to power, to ACs, to whatever, cabinets and so on. Okay, right. What about the infrastructure? Let me do it for you as a table. This is very important, gentlemen. Here we will have physical environment, and we will have here cloud service provider. Here we have cloud service customer. Physical environment, we said as the provider. What about the infrastructure? Who is responsible for it? Sorry?
It depends. I said it depends.
Depend upon what?
Like for SaaS and PaaS, the module for the cloud
Okay.
module, the cloud service provider will have full responsibility. Yes, I think it will be some part will be for the cloud provider, service provider, and some for the
Then,
customer.
if we are speaking about the infrastructure, yes, then it will be shared between both of them. It will be shared. I will not be able to say it is only the customer, no, because it's not under full control of the customer. This is the big difference you have to understand when we are saying share or sole responsibility. Share, this means that you have to work very close with the cloud service provider to do it. But when we say we PaaS, then PaaS, I don't have to do anything with the cloud service customer. The cloud service here provider, it will be full responsible for it, solely responsible for it. Okay? Right. What about the platform? And again, if I say platform, I will define again ES, PaaS, and SaaS. In the platform with the ES, this it will be responsibility of what?
Now, when you say platform, what do you mean by that?
Platform, this it is the BASS, platform as a service, where you are provided by an environment, ready environment for programming applications. It can be programming language, it can be database, it can be libraries, it can be runtime scripters, and so on. Then, if we are speaking about SS,
Okay.
if I are speaking about SS, this it is 365, for example, then of course I'm not responsible about this application. Then this means that it will be totally with the cloud service provider.
Yes.
It will be totally with the cloud service provider. But if you are speaking about PaaS, When we pass here, it will, what do you mean by pass? Pass this, I am responsible for doing my application. When cloud service provider and customer service provider. And if I'm speaking about ES, then it is totally the cloud service customer. Why? Because in the ES, I took only servers. Then whatever any programming languages, whatever any libraries, whatever any databases, it is not, please mute your,
no, get the broken one.
Go to the one, fix.
When if you are having ES, then this means that with ES here, you are having servers only, and you will install the platform. When in this case, the cloud service provider does not have anything to do here. He say, I'm really sorry, this is not my responsibility. I don't know anything about this one. It is yours. Okay. What about the application?
Mr. Osama, can you please repeat again the AS part for platform? I didn't quite get it.
For SaaS or ES?
Yes, in platform. I mean, I don't understand
If
why it's
I am
customer.
a user and I have ES, what did I lease from the cloud service provider?
I leased upon until the operating system. For example, I will take the operating system and then I will put my runtime and I will put my application data, everything, right?
Okay, yani this means that I took from the cloud service provider the server,
Yes, the server part.
right? And after that, this it's not my responsibility to put the operating system, to put .NET, to put some libraries and so on. Then, what is the responsibility of the cloud service provider here? It is the servers.
The server part.
Is he responsible for the platform?
No.
No, it is not. Because
Okay.
you are not renting this from him at all. It is from the cloud service provider. It's not from the cloud service provider. This you are using it yourself. When here, of course, it is not your responsibility. It is the responsibility of the customer.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, right. And this is the way how you can go through all of them. There is one point or 2 points very important which I want you to memorize, gentlemen. Very 2 important points. I want you to memorize it. We don't have any discussions here. We will not expect any wrong answers in these 2 things. The responsibility for data and governance, it will be for the cloud service customer in all models. You will tell me, wait. How can I have governance on SaaS, for example? You are right, you will not be able. Then we can understand that you will not have 100% governance, and this is the nature of in some services as the SaaS. But if you need additional governance by some way, then what we have to do? You have to mention this in the SLA agreements and contracts. This is very important. Why? Because you may have some of the applications which is dealing with, for example, health data information, and you want to be HIPAA certified. And in HIPAA certified, they mentioned that you have governance, you will be able to print reports, you have to read it, so on and so. Then how I will be able to utilize a SaaS application from a cloud service provider, and I will not have a governance. In this case, it will not certify me. Well, I have to mention that, please, I need to have some types of reports. These reports, it can be provided on what we can say, or the administration portal and so on. I need some logging Yani, for example, in some situation, in cloud service providers, they are asked to route the logging information into local SIM in the cloud customer environment. When the cloud customer environment, he will do processing of the same. Of course, he will not divert or route all the logs for the cloud service, all of it. It will be only for your activity, of course, because this does not make any sense. Your infrastructure, it will not be able to handle all the logging information for a cloud service provider. But you are asking for your data and for your part of transactions and activities on the network. Okay. How we can implement the data
Mr.
discovery?
Osama, I think we didn't did the application part.
It is the same concept. I should not go by each one. Yeah, this it will be same concept. When we will go how to make the implementation of data discovery, how you can implement data discovery. Data discovery, very important to understand the privacy regulations. This is very important. One of the main things which you have to think about, because you may do one of the exercises and you discover that you are not compliant with the one of the laws or regulation. Then it depends upon your territory, it depends upon your jurisdiction and where your data is hosted. You have to understand the data privacy regulations and what are the pieces of information which you will be able to read it or store it and discover it and so on. And this is very important. Why? Because this is considered as a part of due diligence. And as we mentioned, due diligence is very important, especially for people, customers who are sitting in Europe and America, because if you had any incident and a case raised against you and it showed that you did not do the due diligence properly, then this means that you will be in trouble and you can be subject for jail and or penalty. Okay, then we how to make the implementation of data discovery. It should be also combined with the DLP. You remember the DLP, which we explained the last session when we said that this is a type of data loss prevention, and this it will be monitor all the data inside out coming in and out your organization, and it will not allow any critical data to be coming out from your network. And we have multiple components of the DLP. These components, it can monitoring the email, it can monitoring the internet browsing, it can monitoring the storage of the servers, it can monitoring the storage of the desktops, it can monitoring the network traffic and so on. Then this will be very important because DLP here, it can help you very much in discover if there is any breach in this data discovery. If you have any breach or whatever, then it will be able to stop it or at least to give a note for the security administrator to take a specific action. Okay. As we mentioned in the data discovery, it is very important to understand why we are doing data discovery. One of the important data that to classify the data. Classify the data. For example, I want to discover the information of my patients. In some situation, there may be a user, he will log into your system, he will type his username, password, email, mobile number, some records, health records, and so on. It may not be classified. Then in this case, the data, it will not be secure. Why? Because if the data it's not secure, classified, then it will not be able to be protected by the DLP because it is not protected. The system does not understand this. It is critical or sensitive data. Then what we have to do here, we have to search for names, search for phone numbers, mobiles, medical information, so on, and we can classify all this information. Okay. Again, as we mentioned, all this information, gentlemen, can be very easy done in your organization, in your data center, on-prem data center. But what will happen if we have it on a cloud? This is not be easy. Then here, what is the governance which you can have on discover the data and classify the data and all this stuff? Of course, here it will be the service level agreement. And you have to ensure the compliance requirements for cloud service provider and cloud service customer. You have to keep it very clear. Gentlemen, we have health information. Okay, so we have to make HIPAA standard. Okay, then how we will do it? What are the requirements? We have 1, 2, 3, 4 requirements. Who will be responsible for what? Okay, requirement 1, 2, 3, this it will be cloud service provider. 4, 5, 6, it will be cloud service customer. For example, encrypted data, so and so, don't keep the data at rest without encryption. Then the cloud service provider will say we have up-to-date storage. When the data, it can be encrypted on the hardware level, for example. Then he will be able to encrypt the data. But in some situation, he may say, no, our controllers, it will not be able to do. Then what we can do, the application should be able to decrypt the data and encrypt the data. But in this case, it should be the responsibility for the cloud service provider when he will be able to encrypt the data or decrypt the data. And of course, this, by the end of the day, it is related to the security controls. And security controls, we are doing all the security activities to reach to the suitable security controls. We are understanding assets. We are understanding assets. We are understanding vulnerabilities. We are understanding threats. Then we will be able to figure out the risks and make risk assessment and risk treatment. Then after that, we have to discover the risk treatment, and we have to define what will be the suitable treatment for each risk and what are the suitable security controls, and after that, monitor the controls. This is the story of our life. This is the story of our life. And by the end of the day, security controls. Okay. But again, gentlemen, it is not easy. And you are trying to say security controls, but this is not easy. We have a lot of controls. We have organization control, which is related to policies, procedures, and so on. We have people controls, which are related to HR and the process of hiring and training and all this. We have physical control for protecting the organization physically, protecting data center, and so on. We have technical controls, which is using by technical equipment like firewalls, IPS, and so on. Then, and even, gentlemen, let me make life difficult for you. Unfortunately, this is our life in security. These controls, we have other flavors in these controls. It can be preventive controls where it prevents risk. It can be detective controls where it can detect the risk. It can be preventive, detective, deterrent controls, which it will give a very strong warning for the hacker or any user that he is not allowed to do these actions. It can be alternative control. You are not able to make review for application code because this is code. This application is very old. I don't have this control, the code with me, then I would say, okay, I will have another alternative security control that I will host it in a separate zone which is protected. Then it will be protected from internet actions, I mean threats and all this. Then if we have all these types of controls, how we can choose the right controls, especially the cloud security? It is not similar to our data center, which we know it very well and we can understand our risks and so on. In CSA, you know what is CSA, gentlemen? Do you know what is CSA?
No.
This is very important. You have to know it very well. Cloud Security Alliance. And this is a non-profit organization which we are developing standards for the cloud, security standards for the cloud. And one of the first certificates for the cloud, it was the CCSK, and it was developed by CSA. And CSA, they working very close with ISC Square, and they developed the CCSP. Then CSA is a very important organization which develop controls and standards. The controls, cloud controls, we have something called Cloud Security Alliance Cloud Controls Matrix. We call it CCM. This CCM, it has a list of security controls. It has a list of security controls. We have a lot of security domains. We have application, we have people, we have HR, we have encryption, we have physical security, we have business continuity, we have mobile security, we have organization, we have human resource, we have a lot. Yani, we have a lot of security domains where we are covering. This is one of the really good references which you can refer if you want to compare cloud service providers and how we are organizing or protecting their data. And by the way, CSA, we have again a standard or security standard for evaluating the cloud service provider. Do you know what is the name of the CSA certification? Do you know it?
Certification is CCSK.
CSA star 1, 2, 3. La CCSK, this certification exam to prove that you are certified and you understand the concept. But if you want to certify a cloud service provider that he is doing the infrastructure based on best practices and securely, this it will be the levels, star 1, 2, 3. I think in Saudi Arabia, maximum it is 2. We don't have any 3 at all. Okay? Any questions?
Do we have to memorize all these controls?
لا.
Or it's just for
لا
our
لا لا
own
لا no. No. It will not ask you specifically in CSA or ISO or whatever. No, this it's not. But you have to understand the objective. What is it doing? Yeah, you have to understand, for example, here that we have something called CCM, and what is the objective of CCM? It will describe some sections or security domains where you can have the controls, and these controls it will protect your data and so on. This, yes, you have to do. But to go in deep and because it's very simply, CCM, it is a dedicated course, and this it's almost 3 or 5 days. I cannot remember now. Then do you think that you will be able to capture it? No way. We don't want to study it in this way. But they want you to understand. They want you to, as you know now. Now we got some very important information. We have something called CSA, we have CCSP, we have star level 1, 2, 3, all these informations which are very important for us and which I want you to know it because this it can be a question in the exam. Okay, any other questions?
No.
Okay, I think it's 8:30. I think we deserve a break for 15 minutes. Then we'll have a break for 15 minutes and we will come back. Okay. We are still speaking about the e-discovery. And we mentioned that the e-discovery, it is very important for discover the data. And one of the main reasons for importance of data discovery is for data classification. Data classification, it is, of course, not easy as in the normal data centers. I mean on-prem data centers. Because on-prem data center, as we mentioned, we know exactly the location, we know who is the owner, we know what are the metadata and the whatever any information you required, we know very well about it in the on-prem. But in the cloud, it will be totally different. There are a lot of standards which mandates that you must have a data classification. For example, PCI DSS and ISO 27001. Both of them, they require that you must have a data classification. And we mentioned it is very important to have the data classification. This, it will help you in protect your data. Why? Because, for example, it can be integrated with the DLP. Of course, data classification, it's not the only method for protecting the data using the DLP. DLP has other techniques, but mainly it will use the data classification. When the data classification, it will be very important for the DLP to protect the data from or sensitive data from leakage. Okay, how we are able to map the data or the sensitive data or critical data, whatever as you mentioned in your organization, to the proper classification. This it can be done by multiple things. First of all, it can depend on the metadata. For example, whatever any data which it will be produced by a specific system, it will be critical, or whatever any data has an attribute of email, it can be privacy data and it can be critical, and so on. When this means that you have to the controls or the criticality of the data, it can depend upon the metadata or the nature of the data itself, the type of the data. It can be health data, it can be financial data, it can be privacy data. All this, it should be critical data, or the metadata, where the metadata, it can also be defined for the what's important, information important to define if it's critical or not. Metadata, gentlemen, you have to understand a very, very important thing, that the metadata, it is data related to the file or the data itself. You don't have a control over it. It's not under your control. Metadata, I don't mean it's not under your control that you cannot change it. No, you can change it. But I mean the metadata, it is developed due to the nature of the data. It can be at, for example, when we are speaking about photos, in iPhone or whatever. Then it will give you what is the aperture, what is the speed of the lens, what is the ISO, and all this information about a picture. Then these are part of the photo information. You did not define it yourself. But we have, on the other hand, another thing which you can define it, which we call it labeling. Then this is the difference between labeling and metadata. But the metadata, it's related to the data itself, and it is not defined by the human, it is defined by the nature of the data itself. But the labeling, this is the information which you can define it yourself. You can define it yourself. It can define by user, or it can define by process, or whatever. Well, this which we call it the label. This which we call it the label. The labeling, this, it will contain some important data about the assets. For example, you know, if you have a personal, not personal, I mean business PC or business desktop or notebook from your organization, you will find a piece of paper, a tag, or they call it label. It will be sticked on the back of your machine. This it will define, for example, what is the brand of the machine, location of the machine, or user name who have this machine with him. And it will give you some other information. Then this information, when you will have this label is created by a process. It's created by end user, for example, department, whatever. And this label, it will be sticked on your PC. It will give you information about the asset which you have. This, again, it has the same concept as we mentioned in the labeling and metadata. This labeling, it can be utilized with the e-discovery and DLB to define the critical data. Then whatever any information, then the labeling, it can be utilized by the DLB. And this can be utilized for content analysis of the data and so on. Then these are two methods which can be utilized, the metadata or the labeling. Metadata or the labeling. Labeling, sometimes trainees are, what we can say, confused, because labeling, they are thinking that it's a piece of paper which is sticked on the PC. But again, labeling, it can be for a data. Then take it as a general concept. What is the general concept? The general concept, it is labeling of an asset. It may be digital or may be physical. It may be digital or may be physical. Okay? Can be digital or may be physical. Right. We are trying to understand the methods of e-discovery, and we mentioned that e-discovery is very important to discover the data, and it's very important to discover the data because this, it will help us mainly for classification of data. Why we have to classify the data? Because this data is critical. Then I think the most important question which it will pop up, what are the type of critical data for organizations? What are the types of critical data for organization? Of course, the critical data of organization, how can I define it? Critical data of organization, it will be defined as any data or asset which it will harm the organization if it's leaked or if it's breached, if there is any unauthorized access for it. Okay, this is very clear. Then, for example, if I say that the salaries Excel sheet, it is confidential. Why? Because salaries, it should not be in public. But if I say flyers, a product flyer or service flyer, this it's public. Why it's public? Because this I can share it with other users because I want them to understand my products and services. Okay, we have some other types of data which is considered sensitive by law. And this, if you have it, you have to take care about it, and you have to apply the rules and regulations and laws which are valid in your jurisdiction for this types of data. What are these type of data? Number one, the health information. Health information, it is considered as critical data. This is a critical data, and in the United States, it is protected by HIPAA law. It's protected by HIPAA law. This is very important. Okay, what else? What other types of data? We have the personal information. Personal information, or let's type it in a proper way, personal identifiable information. These are the information which it will identify specific persons. I think in America we are known by BII. These information are very sensitive. These information are very sensitive for the users. And here, gentlemen, there is an important concept which I want you to understand, because again, you will be confused here, even in your practical life or in the exam. When we are speaking about BII, the personal identifiable information, we are speaking about some concepts. Some of them sensitive and non-sensitive data, and another concept, it will be direct and indirect data. This is very important to understand these definitions. What is sensitive and non-sensitive? These are some information, specific information about a person which it should not be available in public over social media or whatever. Okay. For example, let me give you one example. In some countries like India, like Egypt, we have multiple religions. Yani in Egypt, we have Christians and Muslims. In India, we have Muslims, we have Hindus, we have Christians, and so on. In some situations, there may be some what we can say problems or quarrels between these different groups, and unfortunately, we are representing the religions. Then in this situation, if people, for example, in Egypt, Muslims, we know that this person is a Christian, they may try to revenge from him, and vice versa. In India, if some Muslim, he knows that this is Christian, then he can revenge from him, or a Christian, he can revenge from Muslim, or whatever, and so on. Then this, it will be some sensitive information which it should be kept aside. Or it can be some political directions. Maybe some political directions. Again, this, it can create some problems for you when you will be against the system or whatever. Non-sensitive, this non-sensitive data, I don't care to be shared over the internet. Okay, this is a sensitive and non-sensitive. What is the direct and indirect? Again, this is a very important concept. This is an important concept. Direct and indirect, direct information, these are the information which it will define a specific personally specifically. Yani, for example, if I'll say that the email is osama@gmail.com, this means that it is Osama Yahya. There is no way, خلاص, because this is unique. Email, it's unique. What is my mobile number? If it's my mobile number, then this again Osama Yahya, because it's a unique number for me. Okay? What is the indirect? Indirect, this, it will be used to minimize the options till you reach to a specific person. For example, if you want to say that, what we can say, a person or Egyptian person who is working in Saudi Arabia. I think this example I gave it to you before, but let's repeat it again, because this is the right place where we have to mention. Then we know that we have about 8 million persons in Saudi Arabia, Egyptian persons in Saudi Arabia. I will say he is working in Eastern province. Okay, now we are almost 1 million. And he is working in Jubail. Okay, now we are 0.1 million. And he is working in Sabiq. Okay, now we are saying it is 50K. And he is working in the head office. Okay, then we are almost 10K. And he is working in the IT. Okay, then it is 1K. 1,000 person, he is working in the IT and have the same conditions. And he is in the second floor, then we are 10 persons. And in the left wing, then there may be 2 persons. And he is beside network cabinet. Here, then this is Sama. Sama is have all these conditions. Then, as you can see, these are indirect information. These are indirect information. I don't have a specific information. All of them are indirect information till I reach to this specific person. Whatever any information of these, they are considered as personal identifiable information. In America, we call it BII. Of course, in Europe, the law which protect the data, it is GDPR. It is GDPR. Okay. We have another type of information as well, which is card holder data. Card holder data. This, of course, card holder data is for Master, for Visa, for because this information, it can be used for collect money or payment and so on. It's considered a very important information related to the persons. And this data, of course, what is the data for card holder? It will be name, it will be card number, it will be security PIN or security code, it will be expiring date, and so on. These are the information considered as personal identifiable information, and it will be very important to keep this data secure and to protect it if you are collecting these data from your customers or even from your employees or whatever any person which you collect this data from. Okay? Any questions?
Yes, Mr. Osama, for card holder here, data, is it considered also license number and stuff like that, or it's in direct?
License number?
You have license for your vehicle. What is it?
But this it's not a card holder. This it will be indirect.
This is indirect?
Yes, because card holder, it is related to the credit cards.
Only credit and debit and stuff. Debit also included or only credit card?
Oh, of course. Whatever any card which you can make payment with it. MasterCard, credit and payment, whatever the name, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, good. We will have another topic which we spoke a lot about it, and every time I'm telling you we will speak about this concept later. What is this? It is something called information right management. Usually it's called IRM. There is another concept, gentlemen, which I want to explain both of them at the same time to understand the difference. Data rights management, DRM. Tell me, I want to hear from you, what is the IRM and DRM?
We can say that IRM for a specific information, okay, and data, if you can say a whole data, you can have, if you would say, additional layer of security on the data itself.
Okay. Any other answer? Any other answer?
Information rights means specifically the data is publicly viewed, whereas the data rights management is basically the 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 data information is not public. It's goes via certain management. This is what I think from the definition perspective.
Okay. Look, gentlemen, IRM, the IRM, it is the information rights management, and it is the access control lists and processes, policies which are used, or permissions which are used to protect the data. These are the simple security controls. These are simple security controls. Then if you have an organization, and this organization, we have permissions, we have rights, and we have all this information, then this is the way of protecting their data. It is the access control list, it is the access control, and so on, to protect their data. This data, it can be a database, it can be files, it can be structured data, it can be unstructured data, whatever it is. But when we are speaking about DRM, it will be totally different. It will be the protection of consumer media. Consumer media. What do you mean by consumer media? It can be a book, digital book. It can be a video tape. It can be a song, and so on. Then these are which we call it data rights management. Then usually when I want to sell you a book, what I have to do, I have to provide you this book in a formal of digital format. This book, you are able only to read it. If you try to print, you are not allowed. If you try to delete, you are not allowed. If you try to change the name, you are not allowed. Then you are not allowed to do anything rather than read. And even if you try to print it, you are not able to be able to do it. Or if you want to buy a MP3 or a film, for example, .mp4 file, for example, let me give you an example. I don't know. Are you familiar with the OSN, this Orbit and Showtime network for TV?
Yes,
This
yes.
is a channel, or it is TV service. It provides films and filming methods. And sometimes you find a new film and you want to have this film. Then you can buy or rent. If you want to buy a film or to rent it, then you can rent it for 48 hours. And you will be able to see it for 48 hours. After that, you will find that this file, it will be deleted from the hard disk, from the OSN receiver, and you are not able to see it anymore. How they configure this? They configure it by the DRM. They define that you can read the file, and we have something called a time restriction, that this file, it will be expired after 48 hours. Then after 48 hours, you will not be able to see this film. This is what we call it DRM. Then when you are dealing with consumer media, as I told you, it may be a song, it may be a movie, it may be a video, it may be a book, it may be whatever. Then here you are speaking about the DRM. Here it is the data DRM. But when we are speaking about an organization which is trying to create some access control lists and create permissions and all this stuff for their users, then we are speaking about the IRM. This is what we call it IRM. These are the difference between IRM and DRM. There are some features which I want, or not feature, what we can say, principles or principles or features. Principles or features for the IRM and DRM. What are the features of IRM? Of course, it will able to protect your data. It will be able to protect your data because it's the file. It has its access control list, and this access control list, it will define what are the rights and permissions and who can do it. When you are able to read it, you are able to print it, you are able to download it, you are to, and so on. Then you have to define these things. Okay. Then what are the features of the IRM and DRM? Number one, the auditing. You can audit. What do you mean audit? Audit, this means that you are able to see who viewed the file and what are the actions taken on this file. Then if you are giving permission for a specific file for user to read it, other to read and download, other to read and change, and so on, then you will be able to see, then you will say, Osama, he was able to download the file, and Prem, he was able to delete the file, and Muhammad, he was able to do this and that, and so on. Then you will be able to audit the activities on your files. You will be able to audit the activities on your files. And all this, it will be very, very helpful to monitor the permissions. You may, by wrongly, you assigned a right read permission for a user who should have read permission only. Then when you will read the auditing, you will say, hey, wait, how Osama, he have read right? It should be only read. Then you can change. Okay. Feature number two, it is the expiration. And I think expiration, it's clear now from our example of the OSN movie. You have to define the time. You have to define a specific time that this file, it will be valid for a specific days or hours or till a specific date. But this means that when this date it will pass, then this file, it will not be available. As I told you, when I have this film for 48 hours, when I open the hard disk for my receiver, I'll find the file. But when the time is expired, I will not be able to see it. Why? Because the file is already deleted. Because the file is mentioned that after a specific time, it should not be valid. It should be deleted. Okay. What else?
So Osama, can we do expiration on the ACL as well?
Expiration of what?
Expiration on ACL?
Yes, of course, you can do expiration on the ACL because by the end of the day, OSN, it has a specific file. For example, it is called Black Adam. This is in your film. It's called Black Adam. Then it will say, Osama will be able to read it for 48 hours, and he will be able to copy as well for 48 hours. Okay? Anchor, he bought the file. He bought it. Then he will be able to read it forever, and he will be able to copy it to forever. This be access control list. Then what you have to what you will do if you log in with Osama, I will be able to download the file from their servers over the internet into my hard disk, and there will be a validation for 48 hours. But after the 48 hours, the file, it will be deleted because I have this time. But when Anchor, he will connect, he will be able to download it and he will read it. But for him, it is infinity. It has no time limitation. Why? Because he bought the file. It will be his file forever. Then this expiration will not be done. Then this means that you are able to make as one of the attributes is the time to control the files. Okay? Another option, you have the policy control. One of the main problems, gentlemen, that we can have our policies and we can define as management that you are should this file to have read and write and define everything. But unfortunately, we are not able to control these permissions, or it can be assigned incorrectly, or the operations of the security permissions are not is not done in a proper way, where we have accumulative rights and all this stuff. Then the policy control, this we will have a very weakness in policy control. But in the policy control with the IRM, this is a piece of cake because we have the granular 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 control. What is granular control? If you have a single file, you can have a lot of permissions. You can read, you can write, you can change, you can copy, you can download, you can erase. And each one of these control, you can assign this specifically for a specific user. Not as in our operating systems. When you go to the file and say delete, then this means that he can read, he can change because he have the delete. But using IRM, he will be able to delete only. He will be able to delete only. This means that I can delete the file, but I cannot open the file. Is it possible? Yes, it's possible. And of course, it can be very nice with the time limitation. If I say that, for example, I have a specific policy, this policy, it will be valid till end of this year. Then what I have to do? Configure this policy, configure the conditions and rules based on this policy, and give it the permission till 31/12/2023. Then when we reach to this date, everything it will be deleted. Then this is a way of the policy control and how we can control our policies. Also, we can protect our data. And of course, I will not speak about protection because now protection, it will depend upon the access control list and it based on permissions and who are the users with the access of the data which we can use. It is very important, gentlemen, to understand that when you have an IRM and DRM, is it support all type of data or not? Because unfortunately in the market, when we have IRM and DRM, then it will support specific applications and format. And for example, when you will have in Microsoft, we have it called the Azure information protection. Frankly speaking, I cannot remember. It may be protection data or whatever. But
it is Azure information protection.
Sorry?
It is Azure information protection.
Azure information protection. Okay. Then this it will be compatible with DOCX, XLXS, PBTX. Also, I think it is with the BDF and so on. But it may not be able to support other extensions. Also, if you have Visio, it is supported. If you have Project, it is supported. Then usually it's all Microsoft products. Then you have to make sure that you are choosing the application which it will fit your requirements, because this it will be very important to make sure that this application it will be able to fulfill your needs and requirements. Okay, any questions? Okay, now we will speak about another very important topic, which is related to the cloud hosting. And this topic is very important because, as we mentioned, in the cloud, we may have your data hosted in a different jurisdictions or countries or regions, which we have their own laws and regulations. And unfortunately, in some situations, we may find contradiction between these laws and regulations. Like what? Number one, it is the data retention. What do you mean by data retention? Can you tell me what is data retention?
How long you are going to keep the data before deleting it?
That's right. That's right. How long you will give the data before you delete it. And this is very important. All the standards, laws, and regulations, we are defining their own rules. If you did not delete the data on a specific time, it will be crisis. It will be a problem. And it is very important to understand that it will under laws and regulations. There is another point, gentlemen, which I want you to understand very well, that it can be a laws and regulation, or it can be internal, or let's call it organization policies. For example, your organization, it says that the data, it must be available for 5 years. Okay? But the government, it will say, we will accept it for 2 years. Which one you have to follow? We have a contradiction here. Your organization, it mentioned we need the data for 5 years. The authorities, we are saying for your country, the data, it should be 2 years.
You will take the most complex one, which is 5 years.
And violate the laws and regulations?
No, you will not violate it, but you will keep it more, 2 years and more.
It's violation. If it's a privacy data, it should be deleted after 2 years or after the period of processing the data. This is violation. Here, as I told you, we have contradiction. And this is a crisis. I have a good intention. I want to give the data because they are telling me 5 years. Then here, gentlemen, it depends upon the type of the data. In some situation, we have to follow the organization policy as Mahmoud, he mentioned that we have to keep the longer period. But when we will come to specific standards, we have to understand the standard or the regulation. Do we have room to give business justification that, gentlemen, I know in GDPR, you are saying that the data, it should be deleted after processing of the data or after 3 years. But for some other circumstances, I will not be able to delete it. I have to keep it because it will be utilized for something else or for other rules or for other law or other regulation. In GDPR, we accept this. Then if they accept it, then I can keep it for the 5 years. Because in the organization, you will say, come on, what is the problem with the organization? It's internally, I don't care. No, gentlemen, it's very important. There may be a case, it will be raised against you in a court, and you may need this data in the future. This is something related to rules and regulation. When you must have this data available, then you will be able to capture this data, discover it, capture it, bring it to the judge. When it's a case, you may have a legal warrant or whatever. Then here we have to understand the law. If we know that the law, it will not provide any justification and it is period, you have to delete it and so on, then you have to refer back into the legal department and find a solution. Based on my experience, all the laws, it will provide you a business justification. All the laws, it will provide you a business justification. okay, I will not be able to delete it because I have another law which our company it have to comply with, and this law it mentioned that sorry you should not delete it within this specific period. It must be 5 years instead of 3 years, for example. Then it will be okay with you. Okay, with number 1, with the data retention period. Also, gentlemen, it is very important to note another thing. When we are saying that you are deleting, you are archiving the data, don't forget the archived files and the backup files. Don't forget the archive backup files and backup files. This one of the main non-conformities which we found in our customer. When we are doing ISO 27001 auditing, we are checking. Did you delete the files? Yes, we deleted. We don't have it on production. Excellent. What about the backup? Show me the backup journal or backup index. Then if we will find the backup, you will be accused. This, it will be non-conformity. You have to keep in your mind. You have as security professional to think, where are my data? Where are my data? This, it will be very important. Okay? Then we will come to another important concept for the data deletion. I think data deletion, we discussed this a lot in the previous modules, but I will repeat it very quickly. We mentioned that to delete a data or to get rid of media, storage media, we can make physical destruction, that you can take the hard disk and destroy the hard disk physically. When all the data on the hard disk, it will be deleted, or not deleted, it will not be accessed. Or we can override the data, or we can encrypt the data and destroy the encryption keys. When the data, it will not be able, no one will be able to decrypt the data later. Or we can degaussing. With degaussing, it is used with the magnetic medias, where the data is stored in a form of magnetic format. Then if we expose the magnetic device into a strong magnetic field, when the data, it will be spoiled, because this magnetic field, it will spoil the way where the data is stored on the magnetic field. Of course, we have only 2 valid methods for cloud providers. Can you tell me what are these 2 methods which are valid for cloud service providers?
Overwritten and encryption.
That's right, cryptography and overwritten. Of course, it's not possible to go and tell the customer that you want to destroy his hard disk or degauss his hard disk, because he's simply, he will tell you this hard disk, it has another data for other users. This number 1. Number 2, this it's a fixed asset for him, and this means money. Do you want to spoil his infrastructure and destroy it? Of course, it's nonsense. Besides, as I mentioned, that it can consist of a data for the user, other users, or other tenants. Okay. There is another concept which is very important, which is called data archiving. Again, I discussed this before, but I will repeat it again.
So Osama, what I understand, is it data overriding and cryptographic, the methods?
Yes.
For
the cloud service provider data deletion. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Then we have the data archiving. What is data archiving? Data archiving, this is a very important concept, gentlemen. Why? Usually, if you have a production, you have a server here. This, for example, ERP application. You have some data, and every year the data it's increased by 50 G. 50 G. Then first year, 50 G. second 100G, third 100G. You found that first year when you will make a daily backup for 50G, second year for 100G, third year for 150G. It is not practical every year you have to make this data backup. And the data backup size increasing, and it's not able to maintain this data backup and so on. And this data, it may not be usable at all. This number one. Number two, by increasing the size of the data, it will not be easy to manage this data or search this data. It will affect the performance of the application itself. It will affect the performance of the application. Then, what is the technique? The technique, we are saying that, okay, gentlemen, this is the production. I will keep only data for first 2 years. And whatever any data more older than 2 years, it will be moved into archive, server, or storage. This, it will be a cost-effective storage. It will be cheaper storage, and you can copy data on it. And this is the storage. When here, it will have the data which is older than 2 years. As a user, you are logging to the ERP server. You are able to see everything, all types of data, all types of data. Yani if it is a server or email or data, whatever, you will see everything, even the production data and the archived data. But what is the difference? The difference that when you will try to access production data, it will be very, very fast. But when you will try to access archive data, it will be slow. Why? Because it will get the data from the storage into the production, then it will be opened. Then this means that it will take some time. But this, of course, it will save a lot of money, because number one, you are saving money for the production storage. Number two, you are improving the performance of the application. Number three, you are improving the backup features, because you will only have a backup for 100G at any time, even after 100 years, because all the other data, it will be stored on the archive storage. In some situations, gentlemen, the archive storage, it may be object storage. If it's not structured data, then this means that it can be stay forever. It depends upon, of course, the your type of data. To choose an archive solution, it is not easy. To choose an archive solution, it is not easy. Why? Because we have a lot of factors and considerations we have to take it in our evaluation for products or whatever. What are these? Number one, for data format. What is the format of the data? Is it structured or unstructured? Is it databases? Is it individual files? Then all this information, you will find some solutions support structured, some solutions support unstructured, and so on. Then you have to define what is the data format, or how the data is represented and how it will be stored. For example, gentlemen, let me give you one of the main examples which we found before from our practical experience. If you want to archive some data, you have to understand the nature of the application. Why? Because it depends upon the operating system, the version, the patches version, the application version, and so on. So on. Then, if all this information, you will not be able to understand it, and you will, for example, after 10 years, you want to get some information, you will say, wait, I'm really sorry. This information, I will not be able to capture it, except if it will be retrieved through, or it will be recovered through Oracle database version 8. Now we have version, for example, 12. but we need version 8. But version 8 is not available anymore. I don't have any support for it. Even the product is not available anymore. It's expired maybe 10 years ago. Then what I can do, when the data archive data, I will not be able to retrieve it. Then what is the benefit of this data? I'll say, okay, when the application, what it can do, it will archive the data and I can get it in the PDF format. Then there is no need to be able to get the data in the same format as in the production. This can be in the PDF format or whatever. Then this is one of the features. Also, we have another challenge which is really important, the technology. What is it? You know that when we are doing the backup, we are doing maybe on backup tape. Backup tape, we have many different DLT 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't know if we have others or not. I'm not working in backup since a long time. Then now, if we have a new backup system, it is a brand new one. We are happy. We have, for example, DLT 6. We make a backup for our data, and after 5 years, this model is expired, and we have another one, DLT 7. Are they compatible with each other? Is DLT 7 can read DLT 6 or not? If it's not able, then we will be in a crisis, because whatever any data which is stored by DLT 6, it will not be read by DLT 7. Then this means that we have to make a migration for all data archived or backed on DLT 6 into DLT 7. And this means that you have to keep in your mind the technologies, changes the hardware, and so on. Another important issue which you have to keep in your mind, the regulations. As we explained it before, how long the data it should be archived, how long the data it will be backup, and so on. And how it should be deleted. You know, in some standards, we are saying override, it must be done 3 times by a specific pattern, not just to override it by any data. No, by a specific pattern. It should be overwritten 3 times. In this case, it will be accepted. Otherwise, it will be a non-vulnerability. It will not be accepted. And the last factor, which from my point of view, it is very, very, very important, is the testing. Usually when I am going to my customers, let me tell you a story happened with me, and this is a real story. We, and this it was since a long time, maybe 20 years ago. At that time, we were working with operating system called DOS. I don't know if you are familiar with this DOS or not. I'm an old man, 55 years, when I see a lot of operating systems. This DOS, it was the basic operating system for PCs. And it has a specific application. It's running on the DOS. By the way, DOS, this is similar to CMD. If you type CMD, this is exactly the same. The DOS, it is exactly the same as the CMD, command line interface. There is a bank. And this bank, he has one desktop. This desktop, we have a gateway application where we are integrating or have transactions with SAMA. SAMA, this is our authority for financial sector. And it's controlling all the banks. Then whatever any bank with SAMA, it's considered as centralized location where all the bank can communicate together. Then this gateway, whatever any action it wants to do it with SAMA or with any other bank, then it should go through this gateway. Okay, let's do it in red color, this machine. And the administrator, he asked us that we want to replace the power supply because it is 3 years old and we don't want to face any problem with this machine. Okay, that's fine. I called the head office, I received a power supply, and I went to the bank How are you, sir? How is everything? Is it okay or not? And so on. And I said, please, we want to replace the hard disk. He say, okay, we will not be able to do it on a working day. We have to do it on holiday, and it should be after 12 a.m. We agreed about on a Friday that we will do it on Friday at 1 a.m. When I went, I asked him a question. This machine is very critical. Do you have a backup for this machine? He said, of course, I have a backup. This is very important. I have a backup. And at that time, backup, it was very, very easy and very simple, because by the end of the day, this application, it was text-based and 1 MB maximum. I asked him, did you try to restore this file before to make sure that it's workable? He said, no. I said, then I'm really sorry. I will not touch this machine. He said, why? I told him, because we cannot guarantee that this machine, it will work. Suppose that we faced any problem, what will happen? If we don't have a backup, we will not, he said, I have a backup, but I don't think you did not try it. Then please check it if it will work or not. Otherwise, we will be in a problem. He said, but this will be a waste of time. I said, no, it's not a waste of time. You know what will be the waste of time? If we replace the power supply and when we start the machine up, it's not working. And we try to restore the files and the files are not recovered. Then he said, okay, I don't want to have any risk. Give me some time. Let's do the implementation on next day at Saturday, 1 a.m. I said, okay. When he checked the file, everything, he called me, yes, it is workable and I don't have any problem. I said, great, congratulations. I went on Saturday, I powered off the machine, I replaced the power supply, I turned on the machine, it's not starting. What is the problem? It's not bootable. Why? Because the hard disk is corrupted. Not corrupted, it's spoiled. He said that this machine, it was working for 3 years continuous without power off. And of course, the hard disk, since 20 years mechanical, it was very poor. But when we powered off the machine, the hard disk, it was not able to start again. I told him, okay, no problem. We will get a new hard disk from our. He said, I have hard disks in my company, my warehouse. He get a hard disk. He install it, retrieve the file, recover it. When we power it on, everything it's up and running, and it was working. Then at that time, gentlemen, if we try to replace the data and get the data to be recovered and it was not tested and make sure that it's workable, this it will be a crisis. Then please test. This is very important, not only in this. Testing is very important in backup. It's very important in disaster recovery. It's very important in business continuity. Whatever any process, please don't tell me we are ready until you have a proper test plan. You don't have a proper test plan, I am really sorry, it will not be acceptable, and I will not be able to say that you are having a proper implementation for disaster recovery, for backup, for PC. Because in some situation, you try to recover the file, you will find that the backup tape is corrupted. There may be some problem with the backup tape due some dust or magnetic field or whatever. Okay? Any questions? Any questions?
I have a question, Mr. Osama, for the archiving
Yes,
and data
go
retention.
ahead.
Okay, but I will give a practical scenario if it's okay with you.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
This it will be better to understand the requirement of the question.
Okay.
I mean,
so a couple of months ago, we get a request that we have to have a data retention for our email and we have to have archive them. Okay, so we did the data retention as a policy, which is I think 5 years, as far as I remember, and the archiving for all the email to be done after 3 years. So the 3 years email will be archived, then they will store for 2 years, and then it will be deleted for the archiving for 2 years. Okay, right here we are using, for example, Office 365, and we are using I think it is a SaaS solution. Okay, We are using Exchange and everything. How to delete and then it will be deleted automatically. But here, I'm not sure exactly how to deploy or apply the encryption. The encryption is very clear, but what about the overwritten? The methodology to delete the emails. Okay.
That I did not understand. But am I right? This is right.
Yes,
What
this is right. 3 years
this right?
deduction, then archive it for 2 years, then the deletion will be after 5 years for the email.
Okay, this clear. Then what is the question?
Now, if I want to delete, how to delete them? Since it's a SaaS solution, how to overwritten or other methodologies encryption?
Excellent. This is a good question. Now,
Okay.
there is a challenge. Mahmoud, he has implementation with Office 365, Azure Office 365. And he is hosting his email, everything is great for 5 years. Thank you very much. We are really happy and everything is good, archived, so on, so everything is great. But now after 5 years, due to some laws and regulation, they mentioned that the data, it should be deleted. Okay, how he will be able to delete this? How he can sure that this data, it can be deleted? Do you have any answer? This is very important. This is really important. This is a challenge.
We know that it's encryption or overwritten data.
Yes, we know that the best practice encryption,
Yes.
or what we call the Muhammad override.
Yes,
Some
yeah,
people
yeah.
sometimes they are saying no, we don't like an override, we like cryptography, whatever. It's okay, that's fine. But unfortunately, you may not have the direct access for this data to encrypt. It's a SaaS service. You don't have control over it. You have very limited control.
So the question over here is how we wanted to make sure whether the data has been deleted or not after the 5 years.
Yes. How you will delete it and how you make sure that this data is really deleted.
Well, the policy is there. I configure the policy to be deleted, but how can I make sure?
Okay.
If that's
Here, if I am in your shoes, what I have to do? I have to understand that each cloud service provider, he will provide a different way of deleting the data. Okay? Then, before answering this question, let me ask you other question before this one, because this is very important, and I will show you why I am asking this question.
okay.
Did you hear something called cloud exit strategy?
Oh, I heard about it, and we actually
What is it?
implement when you will
What
have
is
a
it?
okay. When you will have a strategy, you have a set of steps to migrate or to exit from that cloud, so you will have your data in another place immediately.
Excellent. And this means that you have a plan that your data, it will be erased totally from your machine because you are migrating into a cloud service provider or maybe on-prem or whatever. But by the end of the day, you want to quit this cloud service provider, right?
Yes.
Excellent. When you should develop the cloud exit strategy for your email service?
It should be at the beginning of purchasing the service or implementing the service.
How it will come in? And you want to go to the cloud service provider, hey, hello, I want to host my email with you, and I want to make exit strategy. You are telling him that there is no trust between us and I can quit at any time?
No, I mean as an internal department, as an IT department, you will have your exit strategy.
طيب. This strategy, it is the responsibility for cloud service provider or cloud service customer?
It is the cloud service customer.
No, it's both. Here you are able to define what you want, but the cloud service provider, he will do it for you. Without the interaction of the cloud service provider, you will not be able to do anything. Then now the responsibility or accountability is coming for both of you. It is shared responsibility. Then if it's shared responsibility, you will not be able to do this cloud exit strategy alone or internally in your organization. The cloud service provider should be involved. Right?
Okay,
But,
but you just mentioned that how can I go to cloud service provider and tell him that I want an exit strategy?
Yes, because I am a good salesman. I'm trying to cheat you and play with you.
So this will be at the beginning of purchasing the service or during or at last?
What you have to do, that you have to do it from scratch. While you are preparing the service level agreement, you have to define the cloud service strategy, exit strategy. The answer which you gave, it was the right one. But take care, when you are evaluating cloud service providers, they will play with you as I played with you. You have to understand the concept. Then if you tell you, oh, we don't have trust with us, we will give you so and so, and we will make... Sorry, gentlemen, I am really sorry. I don't accept all these promises. The only promises between me and you, it will be written in a service level agreement, contracts, and the exit strategy. Otherwise, I don't hear anything. If the cloud service provider, he refuses to do any one of these things, drop this cloud service provider immediately. Okay? Well, now we agreed about this. Now, Mahmoud, the management, he asked Mahmoud, please develop this cloud service strategy for us, the email. Then he went to Microsoft Azure, please, I want to have a meeting and discuss this. Gentlemen, please tell us, what are the possible methods which you have for deleting the data? They will tell you, wallahi, we have 1, 2, 3. Maybe override and cryptography. Then, okay, that's fine. Then you are able to choose any one of them, and you have to define in the service agreement that they have to delete it, and this data, it should be deleted from the production, it should be deleted from other data centers, it should be deleted from the archive, it should be deleted from the backup tape. This, you don't have control over it, Mahmoud. You don't have control over it. You will not be able to do anything. You can whatever, anything. But here, you know what we are doing? We are doing due diligence. When لا قدر الله, if there is any data breach or problem, and we are saying Mahmoud, he is the accused person, he will say, no, sorry, gentlemen, I have a service level agreement, the cloud service provider, we did not do the exercise properly, then this is not my responsibility. Okay, in some other situation, management, they will come and tell you, okay, now you are in safe side, but I don't care about you, I'm caring about the organization. Now the data is breached and we are in trouble. All our secrets is published over the internet. Then you have to tell them, gentlemen, this, it is SaaS risk. We know that. You accept to migrate it into the SaaS. And we know that we don't have a full control over it, and we may not be able to control it. There may be some risks that the data, it can be breached. But you accept it from day one when you said, okay, we agree to make this infrastructure. You got my point?
Yeah, okay. So it's accepted risk.
It's accepted risk. Yes, it's accepted. And this is one of the reasons why we are saying SaaS and PaaS, it will not be accepted for non-critical applications. It will not be accepted for critical applications. Why? Because the data can be breached. Well, if it's critical, keep it as private cloud in your infrastructure. I remembered one day when I went to the customer and explained to them all these things. he mentioned, why? Then I have to give everything here and in my premises, and it's over, it will be better. I asked him, okay, tell me, what is the size of my documents on your personal PC? He mentioned it's about 10 GB. I told him, of course you have some critical, of course you have anti-malware application. You have backup. Of course you are buying hard disk drives. External, I mean, of course, external hard disk drives. You have malware, which is considered as security and all this stuff, right? He said, of course, because I want to protect my data. I asked him, okay, how many, what is the size of the critical data, which if this data is breached, it will be really a problem. He said almost it's 2 GB, let's say 3 GB. I said, makes sense. You mean maybe personal photos, maybe some financial records and so on. He said, yes, that's right. I said, okay, then now I am telling you, instead of doing all these activities for 10 GB, I want you to do it for 3 GB and take these activities for the other 7 GB into a cloud service provider. This, you are saving money, you are saving efforts, you are saving time, and so on. Am I right? He said, yes, you are right. And by the end of the day, your critical data is still on your PC. Your photos for your wives or daughters or mother or whatever, it's still on your PC. Your financial records, it's still on your PC. But these other documents, which it may not be important, for example, I like for myself as Osama, I like the photography, and usually I am not making photos for persons. I'm making photos for nature. Then I don't have any problem with these photos. If it's published over the internet, I don't care. Even copyright, I don't care of it. I will not sell these photos, or I want to have a copyright for it or whatever. Then this, it will be one of the problems. To manage all the size. Believe it or not, I have on my hard disk about 200 GB data. Do you think that I will be able to copy it on hard disk or whatever? But I have on my personal hard disk only 10 GB or 15 GB. But all the other data, I upload it into box.com, OneDrive.com, and iCloud. I have 3. Then if there is anyone is down, I will utilize the other media. Then this here, if you will want to apply this into your example, what can I do? Now, first of all, you have to define the exit strategy and make it very clear before publishing your data or sending your data into cloud service provider. Now you have very clear, okay, I will have cryptography, I will have overriding, whatever, what you will agree with the customer and your management will approve it. Make it very clear in the service level agreement. We agreed that we will have override. The override, it will be a specific pattern. This is specific pattern based on مثلا PCI DSS scenario or approvals. This, it will be provided by the cloud service customer, and it should be written 3 times. And this, it will be responsibility and accountability of the cloud service provider. This, it should be applied also for the archive data. It should be applied also for the backup data. Then now, after you finish the exit strategy, you know all the factors which you have to do it, and you have to include it in the service level agreement. Then now there is no chance that what can I do? What can I do? Now I want to quit from this, what I can do? Refer to the service level agreement and the cloud exit strategy. This it consists of the information which are required to do the exercise. Did I answer the question?
Yeah, I get it.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. I think now it's 10 o'clock. We are done.